listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Central Hudson reminds you, when you're doing yard work, safety matters. If you use a ladder, be aware of overhead electric lines, including the service wire that runs to your house. Even wooden ladders can conduct electricity with dangerous results. And be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a swimming pool, and you're working with skimmers, brooms, or other long-handled tools. Central Hudson wishes you a safe summer.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Jackie Lovezzo. I'm from Lake Katrine, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it is an invaluable resource to the community and its residents.
This programming is brought to you by the Friends of Kevin Cahill. As a strong advocate of local broadcasting, Assemblymember Cahill urges you to support Kingston Community Radio with your time and donations. Your contributions keep KCR vital and on the air at FM 92.5, AM 920, and on the web at mykcr.org. Please join Assemblymember Cahill and send your gifts of $10, $25, or more to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. Together, let's keep KCR alive.
Okay, we on? Good morning.
Good morning, Mario, on this lovely June chilly morning.
I know. It's
50.
a breath of fresh air. Yep. That's well, listen, good morning to those of you awake and ready to partake in some discussion of some major issues and news that occurred around town in the last 2 weeks since we've been on. So let me lead with the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And that
no longer in the room.
The 800-pound gorilla no longer in the room. I think the primary election in District 6 was probably one of the most astounding political upsets that I have seen in my 50-something years here. But I think what's more interesting about this to me is the fact that you virtually predicted this to me on one of our walks when you had an exchange with someone that was calling on Legislator Donaldson's behalf, and you had an interesting conversation with one of the supporters.
Mario, let's just set the stage here. There was a primary, which is unusual in and of itself. There was a primary in Midtown Kingston, District 6, Legislature District 6, on Tuesday, with Legislature Chairman Dave Donaldson, Democratic primary. Dave Donaldson challenged by a newcomer, typically referred to as the unknown Phil Ernst. If anybody knows Phil, please let me get me an introduction.
Did he even make an appearance anywhere?
I think he walked the district. I don't know if Donaldson did. Neither one walked in my neighborhood, so I can't attest to that. But
you're in District 6.
Yeah. I am. I'm a registered Democrat in District 6. So this was a local election for me. In fact, I after some 45 years as a non-enrolled non-enrolled voter because of my profession, journalism. I had not enrolled. And in 2011, in the Democratic primary, which was settled by about 10 votes, I came to the realization that my vote didn't count in the general election. Yeah. And so I enrolled as a Democrat. So I get the literature, I get the phone calls, and to get to your topic. So I get a phone call, and I knew the caller. She knew me from politics and this and that. Not a former elected official, a committee woman. She was calling on behalf of Dave Donaldson, and she said, "I assume that you're going to be voting for Dave." And I said, "You assume too much, I think." I said, "First of all, I'm not telling anybody how I'm voting in this election." And the notion that Dave is automatic, I said, I don't know if that's the case. I said, he's been around a long time. I said, of late he's been living in the past. His literature reflects that. And I said, I think he could have some problems. I said, there's new people coming into town. Yeah. People that don't know him, who didn't vote for him in the previous.
Your street is loaded with new people.
All new people. Yeah. I don't. I'll get to know most of them eventually, but I don't know half my neighbors anymore, and I don't think that's unusual. And so she said to me, now this is one of his supporters. She said to me, I'm hearing that. Wow. I'm hearing that a lot from people. If they're going to vote for Dave, it's like, well, let's give him one more shot. He's been there 27 years. I mean, that's more than a generation. And
so that was a big red flag to you.
Yeah, that was a flag, okay. And I thought, wow. I mean, I'm not on the street like I used to be. I wasn't hearing that. Quite frankly, my assumption was Dave would win. I thought he might win a close race. I was more interested, as I wrote about in my blog last week. I was more focused on what the effect of the chairman of the legislature being challenged in his home district.
Yeah.
What that would mean to not only Donaldson, and if he were to run for chairman again in December, chairman of the legislature, the chair people are elected by the members, not the people,
right?
The voters. So and there, by extension, the other legislators might be looking to their own home districts and wondering, well, how deep is my support with these people coming in?
Yeah.
And I guess the answer is not too deep, certainly for Donaldson. Now, he loses his election by, I believe, 44 votes.
Yeah.
With about 15% of the, there were...
There's 100, she said, Ashley Dittis said there were 115 absentees sent out and 57 have been returned.
Yeah.
So 57, he's got to get
90.
45 of the 57.
It's about 90%.
At the moment.
Yeah, about 90%. There are, according again of the Board of Elections, 2,432 registered Democrats in the district.
Wow.
And about 15% voted. 15% is not unusual. In fact, it's more or less the rule. Yeah. You start from the over/under is 15% in primaries. I've never understood, being somewhat new to primaries, why people enroll in a political party and don't participate in that party's primaries.
Well, I have another observation here, and what I think also hurt Dave was the fact that folks who have been around for years and years and years are much less likely to vote than that newly enfranchised voter who just moved into the area, wants to have their voice heard,
get involved,
wants to get involved, etc. And somebody who's known him for 25 years is like, he's a shoo-in. I don't even know.
Well, that's I think that's exactly right. And he's going to. It wasn't from lack of effort on maybe walking, lack of effort on Donaldson's part. He spent a lot of money on this. There are again just over 2,400 enrolled Democrats, and they all got mail. Now, I don't want to send out 2,400 postcards like he did twice.
Yeah.
And he called in all the stops. He had a phone bank going. I mean, that for a legislative primary is unheard of. He had one of his flyers had a photograph of him and Pat Ryan, the I guess rather popular county executive, as if the two of them work very closely on issues. I think Pat Ryan keeps his own counsel, quite frankly, but that kind of effort that went into this campaign. I think Donaldson knew he had problems from the get-go. And he reacted to that. Speaking of Donaldson reaction, I understand you attempted to get him on this program this morning.
Well, I did. I communicated with him, and I asked him if he would be kind enough to appear, because I thought it would be a very interesting interview for us to ask him some questions about his perception of what was happening, why he kicked it into gear, sending out a couple of mailings, which is even that's unusual for a 13-term legislator who probably knows most of the people, or knew most of the people in the district. Many of those have moved out, and to get his perspective, because you and I are sitting here and doing the autopsy, but what occurred during the surgery is like what I'd like to know.
And the patient died.
And what his perspective was, because I thought that he's a seasoned politician. He could probably shed some light on this that you and I may not have been aware of.
I don't know if this fellow Phil Ernest, right? Erner. I'm sorry. Sorry, listeners. It's taking me a little getting used to Phil Erner. Erner never responded to any of my inquiries either during the campaign, which sent a signal to me. But I understand he did walk, as they say in the trade. He went door to door. He is kind of. I don't think he's typical of the newcomers that are coming to town. I think the newcomers that I see are rather well-heeled people paying twice what these houses are worth. The guy he's described as an activist, which is one of the loosest phrases I know.
Yeah.
Ernst, as an activist, has, according to the Board of Elections, has only voted in 2 elections, the last 2.
Well, perhaps he's only been here for a couple of years.
Well, that's my point. He's only been here. He's been a lot of places in the last 10 years, but he's only been here for a couple of years, and that again has got to be humiliating for as you refer to him, as a seasoned politician like Donaldson. It'd be one thing if somebody who lived here for a long time, maybe even an alderman looking to move up, somebody who had been involved in the community.
Yep.
That's one of my concerns about Ernst. Is I call him a ghost. I don't know who the guy is. I finally saw his picture in the Freeman on 2 days after the primary.
Right.
When they
you wouldn't know who he was if you ran him over.
Literally, I would not know the man, and what he stands for, and so forth. So this complete unknown comes in, knocks off the chairman of the county legislature. That's got to send shockwaves through the political establishment. The times are changing.
Yeah, people have to start getting nervous about some of this. Now, one of the things, I have a problem with 2 parts of this. Okay, number one, he seems to be a one-horse pony. I don't, I am
one-trick pony, Mario.
One-trick pony, whatever it is. Yeah. So, all right. So he's a one-trick.
He's a one-horse pony. Go ahead.
So
Now you lost your train of thought.
I took my English from Leo Gorsi.
There you go. And the trick is what?
Well, that he's opposed to the Kingstonian project.
Yeah.
So, I expect more from my legislators than to have one issue, dictate their entire, term on the legislature. And that was the first thing. And the second thing is, I took exception to something. Now, again, this is a quote out of the Freeman, and whether or not this is accurate, well, that's anybody's guess. But, so essentially, it says here, he's been vocal in his opposition to the project, which his campaign has called a luxury hotel and apartment complex being constructed by out-of-town developers. That is an absolute false statement. We all know that. The folks at Herzog's, who are bastions of this community, are completely involved, and they have a partner in the project, but this is a local company building this project, people who have done a lot for this community, and this guy rolls in, from the prairie and decides that, this is an out-of-town and it's not even a luxury. And by the way, how about the term luxury apartment, as if there's actually something wrong with providing housing for people who have a lot of money to spend in our local businesses. Wow, that's really terrible.
Well, what's really wrong, and from that viewpoint, is that there are a lot of people, far more people, who can barely pay the rents that are escalating now. That is who Ernst his campaign is appealing to.
But we're building apartments at the jail for workforce housing. There's a proposal to turn Stony Run into workforce housing. There's nothing wrong with having more than one road to follow, and to insinuate that this was just a bunch of rich folks taking over,
out-of-town rich folks.
Yeah, out-of-town rich folks taking over this little slot uptown. And God forbid we should support those businesses up there that are paying really high rents to a lot of local, landlords and whatnot. Oh, this is just awful. And, I don't know much about your neighbors, but a bunch of them thought that was a great idea to get rid of Donaldson because he voted for this project.
Which raises a question that you observed. All three Kingston legislators voted for this. What do they call it? The
pilot.
The pilot. Excuse me.
Pilot to give them some tax abatements.
Yeah, well, substantial tax abatements, and so why aren't they going after Abe Uchitel or Pete Criswell? They went after the big guy, and this is a statement too. There's an old saying: if you go after the king, you better kill him.
Yep.
And they knocked him off, and like you said before, this is sending shockwaves through the legislature. They may revisit this whole Kingstonian issue, based on this election. This was in limited voting. This was a signal from the so-called activists.
Yeah.
Who got active and got out and voted. There's only 44 votes difference here. If Donaldson had turned around, as we like to use this formula, if Donaldson had turned around 22 of those votes, or 23
maybe
votes.
Knocked on a few doors, maybe some people were just like, I never see this guy.
No.
Or whatever it is, and a lot of times, it's important to walk. Now, we have a call. Good morning, caller. You're on with you and Mario.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. And I really am enjoying the show already this morning. Thank you. Regarding Donaldson, two questions or 2 points for you to consider. One is, do you think that the construction and all that's going on Broadway and in the whole area, I know a lot of residents that are frustrated by how long it's taking. And particularly, I think those having moved recently to Kingston, may not understand this is really a big deal here. And I'm wondering if, whether they live directly in that area or not, they're passing through all the time, could that have been a factor in some way that someone like Ernst, who's new, could say, look at this. This isn't what we want for our city going on for so long. Just wondering, because I hear a lot about that locally. Other question is, regarding Donaldson, given that it was so close, do you see him trying to come back when he has another chance, or could this be the end of his career here, truly?
I'll tell you, caller, thanks for that. That's an interesting note about Broadway, because that Broadway district, the district fronts on several parts of Broadway. Okay. So there might be people.
Runs right through that district.
Yeah. My personal view on Broadway is it's long overdue. These things take time. There's infrastructure, water, sewers, etc., that are 100 years old under Broadway that had to be replaced. I think they ran into a lot of things that they didn't anticipate, and I think it's going to be a really nice, smooth road, and maybe not my lifetime. But the other question about Donaldson making a comeback, I don't know if he will. I don't think he'll wait that long. I think Donaldson's next move, and I don't mean to think for him, but he had this, and we gave him this opportunity to come on this program this morning and talk about how he sees the lay of the land going forward. Donaldson can be litigious. He's very confrontational. He's not a guy to sit around and just let fate play his hand for him. He's an activist in his own fashion. I would not be surprised if he mounts some kind of a challenge to Ernst's residency. If Ernst is not
Burner.
Excuse me, who the hell is Ernst?
I have no idea.
It's
You can call him Ernst, okay?
If
you want to call him Ernst, you just call him Ernst.
Let's just call him Phil.
Phil for Kingston.
Phil for Kingston. There he is. Given his recent residency, now I've checked with the Board of Elections, and the rule, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense, but the rule is that a candidate does not have to live in a district in order to run for office in that district. Now, the odds are pretty high that if you don't live there at all, that nobody knows you, that you won't get elected. However, the candidate, if elected, has to establish a residence. And in further research, and I don't mean to contradict what I just said, but I just thought of this. Further research says the Ulster County Charter requires a candidate to live in a district in order to run for office, which contradicts state law. That's a state statute that a person doesn't have to live in the district. But the county charter, which dates to 07 or 06, requires a person to live there. So if Donaldson can figure out ways to just eliminate this candidate as a candidate, that I would think that would be his first recourse. I don't think it's going to work, but I think he might go in that direction. He had previously challenged a candidate in a general election. John Quigley ran for county legislator about 10 years ago against Donaldson, and Donaldson took him to court on a residency issue and lost, incidentally. So thank you, caller, for that. We're gonna move on to a few other subjects, but if other callers have want to raise some questions about this or add their input, Mario, give them the number.
331-9255, Kingston Community Radio. Give us a shout. We want to hear from you. And again, you're on with you and Mario. We're talking about the major upset of the county, the chairman of the county legislature by a political newcomer. And Phil, it appears, according to his website, is a major, should we say, progressive. All right, he's definitely a progressive. He's running, in my opinion, on a lot of things that may not even be relevant to Kingston, but he seems to be right out in front of him. For instance, he's a member of the End the New Jim Crow Action Network, and
Let it be recorded that Lawrence Maxwell just moaned, "Oh God," with that.
And co-represented the organization at a meeting concerning the Justice Roadmap with State Senator Michelle Hinchy. His work for racial justice includes organizing with Wednesday Walks for Black Lives. I mean, I'm not trying to, be the quintessential conservative Republican here, but we don't really have a lot of racial problems in Kingston. Not that I'm aware of.
I agree. I totally agree.
I don't see them. My children went to school here. They had friends of every color and size and shape, and everybody seemed to get along until these folks came along and tried to.
I totally agree with that.
So I don't know. Do you see an issue? I mean, do we have Jim Crow problems here?
Quite frankly, I see in my lifetime a lot of progress. I mean, you and I are the same age, and we're old. And from where I started paying attention to these types of things, I mean, Martin Luther King in the '60s and onward. New York City just elected their second black mayor.
Going to, sure.
They will. I mean, he looks like he's pretty solid. That's progress.
Cop and a guy that's not going to put up with this crime wave down there. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I think not to mention President of the United States.
Now here's another claim to fame for Phil. It says here he participated in civil disobedience for environmental justice.
I think he chained himself to something, didn't he?
He chained himself to a tractor to protest the Cricket Valley Energy Project, a fracked gas power plant in Dover. I mean, now, that's interesting. That was in 2019, and in 2021, he's essentially elected to the legislature here. So in 2019, this guy was in Cricket Valley, somewhere. I don't know where Dover is. I think it might be Delaware or.
Oh, it was Dover, New Jersey, too.
Dover, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has helped organize efforts to protect seniors, school children, and other vulnerable neighbors, that includes everybody, from fracked gas, power plant pollution, and similar fossil fuel-related dangers, where industry and government have proven unwilling or unable to do so. Natural gas is the cleanest energy on the planet, next to nuclear. I wonder how Phil would feel about nuclear. I mean, if he's very concerned.
I think we know how Phil feels about nuclear.
But
no nukes.
So,
no nukes.
And here's the problem. Okay, this stuff works great where you have mass transit. We don't want power plants We don't want fracking.
We don't want cars.
Yeah, exactly. We don't need cars because we have subways. It doesn't play all that well because the last time I checked, I cannot take the subway to ShopRite to do my grocery shopping. All right? I actually need to put a fossil fuel in my car so I can get there, Phil.
And Mario, when you buy a electric car, where is the power going to come from for that car?
Very interesting, you, because I don't know if you saw this or not, but the state of California is now asking electric car drivers not to fuel, not to charge their batteries because they're running low on electricity. They have so you see there's these folks are in Gaga land. They're in dreamland thinking that we're going to go to electric vehicles, but those electric vehicles have to generate power, and you can't do it with wind turbines.
Not yet.
And let me just say this: if you've ever been near a wind turbine, you wouldn't want one in your backyard. Okay. They are incredibly noisy.
Really?
Oh, my God, incredibly noisy. So maybe they can put them out in the ocean and disturb the whales. But then they're going to come up against, Greenpeace and a few of those folks who are not going to be too happy. But the other thing is when you move them to remote sites, you now have to have transmission lines. You have to get that power back to the mainland.
Source, yeah.
So, how much solar energy can we produce? There has to be a combination. I completely understand that. We shut down pipelines. We shut down exploration. And all of a sudden, my gas went from $2.30 or $2.40 a gallon to $3.10 a gallon. And you know what? I think ultimately there's going to be a reaction, especially in a rural community like ours, where folks are so dependent on their own transportation. I don't have any problem with electric vehicles. I think that's a great balance. But and people are extremely impressed with the speed of electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Tesla's coming out with a car that goes 0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
I can't believe that. I'm not challenging, but it's probably true.
Well, no, because the reason is you can get up to full max power by just clicking.
I've ridden in Teslas, and the acceleration is astounding. But 60 in 2 seconds.
That's what they're claiming, and I believe anything Elon says. I'm sorry.
Elon is never wrong.
He's never wrong, and he's going to space, and you and I are sitting here and on Lucas Avenue, and this guy's in space, going to be in space, waving down to us at some point in time. Now, Phil is also a big mobility justice guy.
What's that mean?
I'm trying to figure that out myself. It's the right of individuals and communities to move or stay put.
Well, we always had that right.
Safely and comfortably arrive at and depart from work, school, and play, and likewise be well housed. Shared public transportation is a crucial aspect of mobility justice.
All right, let's get off Phil, because we've done 31 minutes on a guy nobody knows. But I would conclude, or I would try to conclude, Mario, unless you have an afterthought on this guy, that we go back. I like to look at the numbers, and if 15% of people who are, in this case, enrolled Democrats, and they believe apparently, as I do, in some of the core issues that Democrats espouse, and you and I are different. Your Republican core issues, and but that's neither here nor there. If they don't participate in elections, if 85% of them don't bother to get off the couch for various reasons, Dave's got it made. Well, he didn't.
Yep.
They're gonna get what they got, and
What they deserve.
and maybe what they deserve too.
Exactly.
Because this guy's profile is, and I'm on the Democratic side. This guy is way left. Now he's only one legislator, but
Yep.
one legislator can have
Time.
influence.
Yep.
You sit on a committee with 5 other people. You're 1 vote out of 5. You're not 1 out of 23, and you know how it works.
Oh, yeah.
And people who this apathy, this indifference. Maybe people are just fed up with politics. They don't want to vote at all. A lot of them don't. In any case, again, they're gonna have to live with the consequences.
Okay, now I have another question because you're our political pundit here. So
Me?
well, I mean, you've been.
All right, Mary, yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I've
come
been
on,
around.
I've been around. You've been around for a while. I don't want to say how long, but
It's a long time. Yeah.
anyway. But here's an interesting scenario. Okay, Dave Donaldson stays on the ballot because he has a
Good government
Yeah, he's got
he's
a
got a
line
line.
that
He's
he
got a line.
created. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's on this ballot no matter what.
Yep.
And I have to believe that come the general election, a lot of these folks who stayed home during the primary are going to come out and vote for Dave. Secondly, you have a fairly well-known Republican running, Miss Timbrook. I mean, the Timbrook name in town
It's a good name. Yeah, good family.
Very, tremendous family, very well-known folks.
Yeah.
And she's got Republican conservative. Now, again, not too many of those folks in town. However, in at times when in these small town elections, families and names mean something. And you have Donaldson and Erner. Erner, has got a lock on what I would call the wingnut section of the party. And Donaldson has got pretty much a lock on the Blue Dog Democratic side of the party. Is there any possibility, like in Saugerties, that Timbrook slips in?
It will be difficult, and let me just say that Donaldson in his prime was a wingnut himself. Donaldson was always an outsider. That's his niche. He's the outsider. He's the critic. He's in the papers every other day. These are the stats. Democrats 24-32 in this district. Republicans 726, 3-1.
Oh wow!
Not enrolled, what they call NOPs, 1,519. When you combine the Republican vote and the not enrolled vote, it's less than the Democratic vote. There's 185 independents. So that's what Timbrook is up against, and that apathy may actually work for in some ways for Donaldson, in that there are too many people that just don't pay attention to anything. And when they go into the booth in November, they may, out of habit, they may just vote across the line and vote for legislator.
Are they going to be able to see Donaldson?
They're going to have to look for him. They're going to have to be very short people because it's down ballot.
Yeah. He's going to be in the middle of nowhere. And anyway, let me remind our callers. Now, listen, callers, we got this really hot issue here, and we want to discuss it with you folks. 331-9255. If anybody out there has a different perspective, we want to hear it. If candidate Erner is listening, we'd love to speak to you. And maybe even candidate Timbrook. We've already tried to get candidate Donaldson, and he's busy today.
I'm predicting we're not going to hear much from candidate. We're going to hear a lot from candidate Timbrook, I hope, who I have not yet met, and we will definitely hear a lot from Donaldson, who will have the bully pulpit as chairman. Ernst. I gotta get that in my head.
How about Phil?
Phil
For Kingston.
Phil ran a successful campaign, and basically he ran a Biden campaign. He stayed in the cellar. He did a little walking around, and nobody had any idea who the guy was or what he stood for.
He moved to town, said to somebody, by the way, how do you smell Kingston? They told him.
And so,
did an honest thing, Phil for Kingston.
I would think he would, given the winning formula, I would think we'll see less of Erner.
And let me throw another question to you, because I really respect your opinion in a lot of these issues. But how do you feel, having covered local politics for 50 years, how do you feel that these folks who move to town, under the cloak of darkness, all of a sudden become candidates, get themselves? How do you feel their lack of knowledge of the community, their inability to really understand the history and the fight and how we've grown? How do you feel that translates to their effectiveness? Or do they just bring a new set of ideas and try and impose them on the folks who have lived here for many, many years and are the backbone of this community?
Well, Mario, I think, like with a lot of things, there's two sides. As a lifelong resident, and now an old curmudgeon, I resent that on some level. I want people to have this kind of familiarity with the town and the issues and the people, which you get by living here. You can't read about this in the papers or see it on the web, study it. To get that kind of hometown feel. But there are new people coming in, and as you pointed out, they seem to be the people that are more active than people like the 70-year-old people who've lived here for 50 years are. So that's a positive. I'm thinking of a line from Lyndon Johnson when he was looking at the Kennedy Whiz Kids, and he said he was heard to say, "I just wish one of these guys had run for county sheriff someplace."
Yeah.
And I think you need that. In times past, which apparently are times past, a candidate would work his or her way through the system. They might start out licking envelopes, working on a campaign, getting to know people, getting to know the players, getting elected aldermen, and getting to know their ward and the people in that ward. Then maybe moving up to county legislator, and then on. Kevin Cahill's an example. He was a county legislator for, I think, 6 years.
Yeah.
And certainly, and then became but on the other hand, Maurice Hinchey came out of nowhere, as did his daughter, Michelle. So there's different combinations. But I think on a local,
knew everybody, and she grew up here, and
Yeah. But on a local level, which in all politics is local. Erner is very interesting in that respect. I guess you can come into a town that you barely visited before and get a small cadre of people together, and in a primary.
He might have had to charge his electric vehicle. He got off the thruway and said, "Geez, this is nice.
This is where am I, Kingston?"
Yeah.
All right, enough of this guy.
Okay,
let's go on to some other stuff. Today,
I don't know if I'm going to ever have enough of this, because
no, you won't.
This is to me is totally astounding. How about anything? You got anything on these races up in Saugerties? They're still.
I'm looking at.
It's like a ping pong table up there.
It is. There are three guys who are constantly fighting with each other.
I know.
This is something like Orwell's 1984. Where he had there were three powers in the world, as he wrote it in 1948: Asia, Europe, and the United States, and they were constantly at war. Two of them were at war constantly with the other one, and they rotated around. and so you've got Joe Maloney, Chris Allen,
and
Schoonmaker, who had locked horns before. And in a three-way...
and Schoonmaker was the party choice, but didn't pull out...
That often happens.
Yeah.
The party choice is not does not always prevail. So there's 14 now. That was much more volatile. Donaldson's got a long, I think, almost impossible task ahead of him, getting 90% of the absentees. But that could turn on in Saugerties. Maloney obviously has an advantage, but 14 votes is.
Yeah.
I don't know how many absentees.
As far as I can see, they have a lot, 150 or 100.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Okay,
yeah. They've got a tremendous number of absentees out there. Back down in Marbletown,
I thought.
Oh yeah.
I thought Parody, Rich Parody, two-term supervisor.
I thought he was doing a great job out there.
Controversial guy.
Evidently, they didn't.
Well, what's happened there? That's a Democratic town. That's one of those 2-to-1, maybe 3-to-1 towns now that prevail. I mean, overall, Democrats have a better than 65, 35 advantage now in enrollment countywide. But that I think Democrats have finally figured out that they've got to get together if they're going to beat Parody. He got crushed in that primary. But I thought because he'd prevailed before.
Didn't he prevail before by running as a Republican?
And he will again run as a Republican.
Yeah.
And he did, by a fairly decent margin 2 years ago.
So what that tells me is that the people that are involved in this Marbletown Republican, the Democratic Committee, are really not. They're not in tune and in touch with the average Marbletown citizen who turned around and then just elected this guy on another line because they're voting for the candidate and not the party, but the party hacks, or they're in there, we're going to get rid of this guy, and they just aren't able to. And I think that race is really going to be interesting. But more importantly, I think it's going to be interesting because he was beaten so soundly by the Democrats that, if they can continue that momentum, and again, there are more of the, anti-frackers and who knows what else, moving into town.
But it's not, it's ominous for, and if Parody loses, that'll be the last of the Parodies because his father chose not to run for re-election up in Olive.
Well, guess what? We've got a call. Thank you for the call, caller. Good morning. You're on with you and Mario.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's Heidi Haynes.
Oh, hi, Heidi. Good morning.
Good morning. I heard you mentioning my hometown, town of Marbletown.
Well, that's an interesting scenario to us, Heidi, because we actually thought that your supervisor was doing a pretty good job, but evidently there's a repeated group of local Democrats who don't think so. They keep knocking him off the ballot, and he keeps coming back.
Yeah, and that to me, this is not interesting to me. It's actually disturbing to me, and it's frustrating. I believe that Rich Parody is doing a really excellent job representing our town, and this is a clear indication of party politics here. Mm. And I don't get fearful too much regarding this type of stuff, but if anyone watched the debate, there was a debate that was broadcast via Zoom, you can see why I would be hesitant to support anyone, the other candidate. But, I wasn't surprised by the results of the primary, quite honestly.
Why not?
Because there's been a heavy move from that Democratic Party in the town of Marbletown to come out with false information, false narratives about Rich. And the demographics of our town are as such that you have people who have just moved in here, and you were touching on this before about outsiders moving into the town, people who have newly transplanted here, which is great. I welcome everybody. And they just vote party line.
Heidi, was this a factor in your decision not to seek election to a third term?
No, not so much. I hear a lot about people staying past their prime.
That's us.
And I don't want to stay past my prime.
No,
So
you're
for
a bit
me, it was
younger
more
than
of
we
a-
are.
I'm downshifting right now, and I don't think it's goodbye, but rather see you later.
Okay, good, Heidi, good.
Yeah, we'd like to keep you. We'd like to keep you around. You have an energy level that's to be admired.
Yeah.
Heidi, you seem to have some legs out in that town, and I use that in a typical sense. Do you plan to campaign for, or do you support Rich Parity? Will you be supporting
I
him?
100% support Rich Parity. And like I said, there's a lot of. I wrote a post recently on social media, and I headlined it, "Just because you can doesn't mean you should," right? I've been approached regarding different races, and, to come out of the gate and think that you're going to run for town supervisor, you need to bring with you a certain skill set to the position that you're trying to run for. And you have to be realistic, and I'm sorry, I question the qualifications of that candidate. Like, I don't even know if they understand the different branches of government and who to contact for what issues. Do they understand funding streams? There's just so much to it. It's not realistic. You have to be realistic. And in order to be a good leader, you have to bring with you, like I said, a certain skill set. Rich possesses all of those qualities. People need to stop being so divisive with these party issues. It's ridiculous.
Heidi, you're a sitting legislature. We don't want to belabor this Phil Ernest thing.
Erner.
Who the hell is Erner? Phil Erner. I'm telling you, I've lost it. As a legislator, what do you think about your chairman, Dave Donaldson, being bumped off in a primary?
Shocked. I'm shocked to a degree. However, I believe this is all born out of that whole IDA, the
Kingstonian.
Cities, the Kingstonian project. They were very organized. They had a very organized group pushing really hard against it, they probably pulled up that list and urged everyone to vote against Dave. And I have to be honest with you, there were times where I was frustrated with Dave, but his leadership, especially during this past year, during the pandemic, I appreciate so much, and he does a wonderful job representing everyone. And I can't say that I'm shocked, but I'm definitely I'm upset about that. Dave brings a lot of knowledge and history to the legislature, and I think it's and I'm not bringing new candidates, because I also support term limits. So bringing new candidates forward brings fresh and new ideas. But I believe that it was a one-issue thing that brought the people out. And honestly, I don't know too much about his opponent here, so I can't speak too much. But I think it was organized through that whole Kingstonian IDA thing.
Yeah, that Kingstonian issue seems to have.
Well,
it's got legs. It was a factor in the school board elections.
They have a financier. They have a guy who owns a bunch of hotels uptown that does not want competition. And
I hadn't considered that.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
And so he's pouring money, and you may not see that money, but it's in there someplace.
You want to know what I call that, gentlemen?
What?
I call that the grimy.
The grimy?
Yeah, because there's always the good, the bad,
and the grimy.
Grimy.
Ooh.
That's grimy.
Hey, Heidi,
Heidi,
we're going to miss you,
came
honey.
into our town and, is spending throwing
grimy.
their wallet around. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I wish I thought of that one. The good, the bad, and the grimy.
Expect to see that on Hugh's blog at some point in time.
I will steal it. Yes.
He has just fallen in love with the grimy.
It's grimy. We don't like grimy.
Let me tell you, Heidi, Mr. Grimey's quite litigious.
Yeah. And so I can't imagine that this guy is spending all of this money on lawyers and he's not filtering some money into organizing these other groups and working and he's a pro. And, listen, I appreciate the fact that he doesn't want any competition. But, tough petunias, as we say. This is not, this is not how things work, and that's a really qualified project. It's gonna put Uptown Kingston on the map. I mean,
Mr. Chairman, I would dispute your last statement. This is exactly how things work.
Well, you're probably right.
the Grammys.
No, and I support development. I support responsible development. You know, I have another expression. We have a lot of cave people, right? Citizens against virtually everything.
Cave people?
Yes. Citizens against virtually everything. And, you know, you've been around a while. You see it. It's the same faces keep popping up all over the place. If we don't let everyone know that Ulster County is open for business, they're just going to go someplace else. I spend a lot of my time now. I represent State Senator Martucci down in Orange County. They're doing it right down there. They really are. They're open for business.
Heidi.
Maybe not so much the IDA, but we're not going to touch that.
But
hey, we're going to touch that at the next segment. We're going to lean on that one.
Yeah, and you know, it's not only Orange County. It's all around us. Go up to Greene County. They've got industrial parks there, shovel-ready, hundreds of acres, water, sewer, anything you want. You can build a plant there. You know, essentially all you have to do is sign a couple of pieces of paper. All the permitting is already done. You know,
open for business, you know, and we're out here living in the town of Marbletown. I'm out here. I don't have a trust fund, okay? I would like to continue to live here. I would like my children to stay here. I would like to be able to afford to live here. We need housing. We have an elitist group of people out here who claim to like the flavor of our community. Not quite sure what they're referring to about that. However, they have trust funds, and they come here with their wallets, and you know, they're again, you know, it's their own personal playground. So
yeah, absolutely,
that needs to change. It really needs to change.
Yeah, they have a problem with your kids staying here and making a living. I have 5 children, and none of them are here because they couldn't stay and they couldn't make a living, and they all had to leave. And I'm not the only one. You know, the county is full of people my age that haven't seen their children and grandchildren in a while because they can't make a living here.
Where does a 20-year-old go to get an apartment? If my son were to want to move out and rent, he'd probably have to find 5 to 8 of his friends and find a unit.
Heidi, let me give you the bad news. He's not moving out.
I know. We make it
He's there for until at least 30.
But yeah, that's the reality of it, though. But at this age, when I was this age, you know, we were looking at spreading our wings and getting out. You have kids that are staying home till they're 27 years old now.
Yeah.
And you know.
Oh yeah. No. That's happening all over town. And
you know, Heidi, I would dispute the notion that I've heard for 40 years that Ulster County is open for business. I think Ulster County is the hole in the donut. You got Greene County booming, as Mario just said. You got Dutchess booming, Orange booming, Ulster.
Yeah, it's the truth. Because and there's a stigma attached to Ulster. Everybody knows that. The developers know that. Why would they? Time is money. Why would they come through, have such a long process for approval, and these people that come out and they're against everything.
And then we have, you know, a new legislative candidate who's willing to tie himself to a tractor to make sure they can't build anything. You know?
Absolutely. We are known for that. We need to change that, you know. We really need to change that. We need to show that we are here and we're open for business. You know, look at this project up on Route 28 in that old bluestone quarry.
Yep.
You know, I could go on and on, gentlemen, but I won't take up too much more of your time.
Oh, thanks for calling, Heidi.
Yeah, appreciate it, and we also appreciate all you do.
And that was Heidi Haynes, county legislator from Marbletown. Oh, we're getting there. Break time.
Okay.
You guys want to go to break, and then we'll come back with birthdays?
Absolutely.
All right.
I can't wait. We got enough birthdays to cover the whole second half hour.
All right, we'll be back in a few, folks.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Swimming pools are great for family fun, and Central Hudson wants you to play it safe. Never operate an electric appliance next to or in the pool. Be sure pool motors and filters are grounded. Have them installed by a professional and serviced by a licensed professional electrician. Be very careful if there are electric lines above or near a pool, especially if using long-handled cleaning tools. And if a storm is nearby, get out of the water. Your safety matters.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Everyone is talking about healthcare these days. America spends twice that of other developed countries on our healthcare system, yet our health ranks near the bottom. How can we stop spending so much and getting so little? By shifting to a system that gives more patients access to strong primary care. Primary care can help make America healthy again. To learn more about the benefits of primary care, visit www.healthisprimary.org. This message is brought to you by America's Family Physicians.
Screening exams for breast, lung, or colorectal cancers are necessary to detect and treat disease at its earliest, most curable stage. But you may have some concerns and questions. Answer your questions and ease your fears by visiting radiologyinfo.org. In addition to information on screening and wellness, you'll find more than 200 descriptions of radiologic exams, procedures, and treatments to help you prepare. Get informed and be prepared. Visit radiologyinfo.org, produced by the Radiological Society of North America and the American College of Radiology.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by the First Savings Bank in Ulster County that still remains local to this day. Ulster Savings Bank, a community bank that's invested in local business, invested in community, invested in you. Ulster Savings Bank, your one-stop resource for everything local. Locations throughout the Hudson Valley and online at ulstersavings.com. Member FDIC.
Oh. All
right, you're on.
Okay, folks, we're back.
We're back.
This is Kingston Community Radio. It's you and Mario on Friday, June 25th. Want to hope everyone has a great weekend. We just covered the great primary battle that occurred in Ulster County on Democratic line. Before we go into any more of our political discussions, we have some announcements, and we have a lot of birthdays. So before we even get to the to the birthdays, we have an announcement that Jim and Louise Rutledge are about to celebrate, or are celebrating today, their 27th wedding anniversary. Congratulations to Jim and Louise Rutledge from their family and friends, and that's a wonderful day. 27, and keep going, folks. Keep going.
It's better than we did.
Well, I'm coming up on 34.
Good for you.
And I'm thrilled.
I'm coming up on 6.
All right. Well, you got a late start in life. What can I tell you? Anyway, let's get to birthdays. Today, June 25th, we have a birthday for, please wish a happy birthday to Andy Cariello from your friends at People's Place. We hope you enjoy your special day. And we have a birthday celebration today for Donna Perry from your friends at People's Place. We hope you enjoy your special day. And today, the winner of the Boyce Dairy Milkhouse famous cow pie is Donna Perry. Congratulations, Donna. And you may pick up your cow pie at the Boyce Dairy Milkhouse at 62 O'Neill Street in Kingston. And that comes to you courtesy of the Boyce Dairy Milkhouse and Kingston Community Radio. tomorrow. We do Saturdays today because we're not on the air tomorrow. So on Saturday, June 26th, we have one birthday, and that is please wish a happy birthday to Vincent G. Sickles from your friends at the Rosendale Seniors. All right, Vincent, by acclamation, you are the winner of the famous cow pie for tomorrow. So, Vincent, happy birthday tomorrow, June 26th. And you can pick up your famous cow pie at the Boyce Dairy Milk House on 62 O'Neill Street in Kingston. And, of course, that comes to you courtesy of the Boyce Milk House and the Kingston Community Radio. Sunday, the 27th of June, is a very big day for birthdays. So let's get started on these, Hugh. So our first birthday is please wish a happy birthday to Beth Warhola from your friends and family. So good, happy birthday on Sunday, Beth. Please wish a happy birthday to Arlene Schule, or Schule, Schule, from your friends at the Friendship Bible Coffee. Arlene, happy birthday on Sunday. And then please wish a happy birthday to Charlie Aleka from your friends at the Volunteer Firemen's Museum. Happy birthday, Charlie. And let's see. Now, the Rosendale Seniors also want to wish Charlie a happy birthday. So happy birthday this Sunday for Charlie Aleka from your friends at the Rosendale Seniors. And on Sunday, please wish a happy birthday to Fred Fisher from your friends at the Rosendale Seniors. Sunday is a good day for birthdays. And let's see, you, the winner of the Boyce Dairy Milk House famous cow pie with some heavy competition on Sunday is Beth Warhola. Congratulations, Beth, and please pick up your famous cow pie at the Boyce Dairy Milk House on 62 O'Neill Street in Kingston. And that comes to you courtesy of the Boyce Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. Congratulations to all of all our folks having birthdays. And as many of you know, both you and I have June birthdays as well.
Congratulations to us.
And congratulations to us. I'm June 11th, he's June 20th. And June is just a good month.
It is. My birthday's in June,
Lawrence?
too.
Your birthday's in June also.
It was weeks ago.
All right. Well, that was a great morning for birthdays. Anyway, folks, we're at Kingston Community Radio. We're talking politics as we normally do. Our number here is 331-9255. We'd be happy to entertain any issues that you would like to discuss with us this morning. And now we're going to get on to, we're going to put the primary behind us because we were both in a state of shock on Wednesday morning when we found out what had happened in this crazy Democratic primary.
I think you told me.
I did.
You called me
called
up.
you and I was like, Huey, you're not going to believe this.
And I didn't.
And even though you said to me you thought that there might be a problem with that race, you kind of were out ahead of that parade. So what else you got here on this agenda of yours?
I would like to talk a little bit about the Golden Hill, about the IDA, excuse me. The IDA specifically and in general, news out of Orange County, quite startling news out of Orange County is that a number of IDA people, including I think the chairman and some board members and directors, etc.
Chairman, I believe, the executive director perhaps,
Yeah.
and one of the board members who owned a company
Galileo, I believe it was called.
That they were doing business with.
Yes.
But were not revealing the fact that both the chairman and the chairman was on the payroll of that company. That it was a pretty shady deal.
Well, they're indicted, and an indictment is only an accusation. But one of the people indicted was a man named Ed Diana, who was a former county executive of Orange County. So this may go back. Systemically, as the expression is used these days, systemically, Orange County might have apparently has some serious issues with some of this development going on. The IRA, excuse me, has been under scrutiny.
IDA.
Did I say?
Industrial
I said
Development.
both. I said both. IDA, IRA. We'll get to the IRA in a minute.
Yeah.
But the IDA has been under scrutiny for about at least 5 years when New Paltz, which was, I think, a precedent, New Paltz rejected the town of New Paltz. I think when Susan Zimmett was a town supervisor, rejected a pilot for what many people thought was a very worthwhile project, building dormitories for the SUNY New Paltz. And the SUNY administration badly needed these. Said they badly needed these dormitories because the kids had no place, the students had no place to live, and so forth and so on. But they took the position that, which is now becoming more the rule than the exception. The position that by granting these tax abatements to attract development, and you were on the IDA board, Mario, so you might speak more directly to this years ago, but that this was costing the other taxpayers, that if you give tax breaks to one person, one property owner, then the other property owners have to subsidize that, regardless of the merits of it. This does not reflect, cannot reflect on the Ulster County IDA. However, it too is under scrutiny lately. It isn't automatic the way it used to be. The Kingstonian is the graphic example of people protesting these types of tax breaks, and it's kind of a means to an end philosophy. If we give them tax breaks, they will come. If we don't give them tax breaks, they'll go someplace else. I don't think that's standing up the way it had been.
Let me just say, I was after I left the legislature, I was appointed to a 5-year term on the IDA because I had been on the committee that had oversight over the IDA, and there was an opening. That IDA that we had here was a little different. Al Ford was the chairman for, oh my God,
forever.
20 or 25 years. Yeah. He was unapproachable in terms of his ethics and his standards. He was a guy you never had to worry that there was.
He was an honest man.
Oh yeah, a tremendous guy, and he did I thought a fantastic job. I had a problem with being on the IDA because, I always looked at the projects from the point of view is what are you bringing to the table here? What are you providing the community in exchange for this? And I like to see jobs.
Good jobs.
Good jobs. I'll give you a prime example, okay? And this is where Ulster County is just, I cringe at the number of baloney press releases that we see every time there's something going on. They're just painting roses on this canvas. And the prime example is this: Ulster County has an IDA. It became very political. They replaced people, put their own appointments on.
Yeah.
Some of the folks on there, I mean, I don't know who these people are, but they're, you go up to Greene County. They have a very simple rule. If your company does not provide a full range of employee benefits, you're not eligible. That's it. You're not coming to Greene County and getting an IDA loan unless you provide medical, dental, 401k, this, that, vacation time, the whole works, and a basic,
living wage.
A living wage. And to me, that's the whole idea behind this, because this isn't a one-sided deal where you get all the benefits and the community gets nothing. So we're creating an environment here where most of our projects aren't even industrial projects. They're not job-creating projects. They're tourism projects. We're going to build hotels. We're going to build nursing homes and stuff. I don't know. I would like to see some real jobs that spin off other industries, tech jobs, and things of that nature, manufacturing type things, where those people need a tax abatement, because manufacturing in this country, it's hard for them to compete. Even with the tech stuff, we're up against, a lot of communities where there are advantages with the labor market, with the educational market, etc. We seem to, everything here just seems to get so political.
Well, Greene County seems to have an advantage, which you spoke to in the first segment, that they have these hundreds of acres of shovel-ready projects, where if you come down here, you can't find a shovel.
The IDA took their fees. Ulster County gets fees. Have you ever seen an accounting of what of the money that the IDA has? No. And they took their fees, and they bought land near the thruway exit.
Yep.
They went in and they put in all of the amenities, the sewers, the water, leveled out the land, put in the roads, made everything shovel ready. Now you want to build, and you're pre-permitted, because you're now permitted to do XYZ. So if you're in an XYZ business, it's a no-brainer.
It's mostly warehouses, isn't it?
A lot of distribution and warehouses, but those
are good jobs.
Oh my God, they're huge, and they're just. It might be a little town, a little community, but they're so far ahead of us, because here everything is involved. You got people chaining themselves to tractors.
All right, we regress. You mentioned IDA accountability, and we might have to we have to offer some context here. The history of actually, I'm going back to IRA. The controversy now between the dispute between the county comptroller, March Gallagher, and the IRA,
RRA.
God, I'm in the wrong medium. The RRA,
yes,
Resource Recovery Agency,
yep,
which was created in the 90s, right around the time Dave Donaldson first got elected, the early 90s, was created as an autonomous. I'm not making their case at all because we'll have our views on this. As an autonomous, essentially a state agency, certified by the state and sponsored by locals. So I think the sense was they wanted this independent agency, independent from local politics, as it were, even though all the members are appointed by the legislature. I think 5 members or 7 members on the board. And of late, the comptroller has demanded, in fact, she subpoenaed the Resource Recovery Agency for its records regarding composting and the funding there too,
and also the sale of it.
And the sale, the whole program, but and she has the comptroller has subpoena power, and she has in effect demanded those records, and they have said no.
And supposedly they signed a deal with Ulster County when they got the
grant.
That they would provide those records to Ulster County, but apparently are not doing that.
No, they claim that they're subject only to they're subject to the comptroller's scrutiny, but the state comptroller, state agency, state comptroller. We haven't heard anything from the state comptroller on that, by the way, but.
They're very busy, the state comptroller, investigating the Trump Foundation, and they just really don't have time for anything local.
But I might note that the number 2 or number 3 person in the state comptroller's office is Elliot Auerbach, the former comptroller.
Yes.
And Elliot has a lot to say about a lot of things, but he's not saying much
Especially
about this.
Local government. See,
Exactly. Local. This is as local as it gets.
Yep.
So
he's been quiet.
So
Elliot, if you're listening, 331-9255. Perhaps you can bring us up to date.
Very quickly, because we only have about 40 minutes. Personally, I think every agency should be accountable, and it's nonsense. I think it's nonsense for the RRA to take the money and then not be accountable. She has good point. I think she might be on shaky legal ground. Because
she's an attorney.
She's an attorney, but I don't know if this is her specialty. She might lose this, but politically she wins because who's against disclosure?
Exactly.
There's nobody. Meanwhile, you talk about bigger things, bigger fish to fry. We're looking at a garbage crisis. I know we don't like to use the word crisis anymore, but it is approaching, and the clock is ticking. I think we're down to 4 years now lead time. That Ulster County has to come up with a means of disposing its garbage, other than trucking it 250 miles to a landfill.
And there's some talk about how Seneca landfill might get a little extension because there is such a crisis, and they may have some additional capacity up there, but
it's finite.
We have some folks. One of the things that I always felt is that the people who are generally opposed to everything.
The cave people
should be empowered to come up with a solution. See, it's just not fair. It's just not fair to always be against something but not be able to offer an alternative or a solution to the problem. When even in my office, when people come to me with problems, I say to them, "Okay, what's your solution?"
You're a dentist. Point that out.
I'm a dentist. I have 23 employees, and I say, listen, anybody can bring me problems. Who can bring me solutions?
Yeah.
Bring me solutions because they're much more important than just identifying the problem. You have a problem, come up with a solution. And I would say to those legislators and environmentalists and all the folks who are opposed to landfills, opposed to burn plants, whatever, bring me a solution.
Recycle.
Bring me a solution. All right, you want to recycle everything? I have no problem recycling. I think it's great. However, it's expensive.
It's market driven.
And it's market driven. Yeah. I recycle my newspapers. I am one of these, dinosaurs that really cannot read a newspaper off of a
tablet,
a screen.
Yeah.
I can't read it off a screen. I need to have the damn paper physically in my hands, and now I feel like I'm reading a newspaper. Just maybe I'm nuts. I don't know, but I think I am nuts. But however, then comes then what do? Now I've got to recycle this paper, and I find out that they can't even sell it for the price of the paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's building up. And the other interesting thing was, and one of the reasons that the market completely collapsed on recyclables was we were selling virtually all of our recycled material to China.
And India and China, but mostly China.
And they stopped buying.
Yep.
And now we're in trouble. So we have to create secondary markets for this. It's a whole process. But I don't know if we ever would be able to cite a landfill in Ulster County.
It's very difficult, and it should be, because a landfill is a landfill. The science, the technology has improved over the years.
Tremendously.
Then it's just not dumping it in a swamp. Like Kingston literally did that. It was it was in the Hudson River, in that swamp area.
Part of LaGuardia Airport.
They called it
on a landfill.
Yeah, they call it. So is Boston Airport. They called it the lagoon, and it was a swamp. And so forth. Anyway, I've lost my train of thought. Mark, go ahead.
Well, the thing is, we've got to start thinking about solutions. What I found extremely interesting is the county executive laid out his plan for 24 of the $34 million dollars that the county is getting compliments of the alleged COVID relief package. However, not one dime was dedicated to garbage. Nothing. It wasn't even mentioned that at some point in time we're going to have to deal with this, what I consider a crisis in the making. Now, how do you not at least have that on your agenda? I understand that there's a separate agency, that's doing this, but how do you not even have it on your agenda? Put some
the operative word here, I believe, is agenda. The county executive appointed a work study group in May. The usual suspects were appointed, including Donaldson, who was blindsided, obviously blindsided. But the rest of the legislature, we should have asked Heidi, I think, about that when she was on. But this group of 7 to 9, or whatever the number of people were supposed to study recommend priority areas certainly, and we've seen them all. Infrastructure, it's decidedly progressive agenda, but that's our government these days. Mm-hmm. He appoints these people to the usual fanfare. The guy doesn't go to the men's room without a press release attached, and then less than 2 months later, as you just pointed out, he says, "I'm taking $24 million to this, and this is what we're going to do with it," and I think it was Ken Ronk, who was a member of the so-called working group, was that he didn't even know about it. ironically enough, the legislature came back into public session for the first time in 17 months to be greeted with this dictate from the county executive. So that speaks to a couple of things. I think a certain amount of hubris is setting in on the sixth floor, which we saw with Mike Hine for about 9 years of his 10-year term. That I'm in charge, I'm the executive, I'm going to run this show. If you guys want to come along, you're welcome. It's not this kind of one branch and the other branch communicating with each other, cooperating with each other, coming up with some common solutions.
What was interesting, Hugh, is the county executive can't get the floor at a county legislature meeting without the consent of the chairman.
Oh, yeah, good point.
I mean, so how'd that call go? Hey, Dave, listen, I want to address the council chair. All right, yeah.
Legislature, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to address the council, the legislature. Yeah, well, about what? Well, I'm thinking about laying out my plans for the $34 million. Well, how's that? That would have been, again, maybe I'm a little different, but that would have been shut down. Listen, we're not ready to hear that yet. We have a working committee,
which he appointed.
Which so I can tell you a story because I'm not speaking out of school here, but when I was chairman of the legislature of the Republican Party,
Freudian slip there.
Yeah, right. I was chairman of the party. I was having a county dinner, and I had at the time we had 2 state senators from our community, and they traditionally would speak at the county dinner. One of those senators hadn't endorsed our candidate for county exec, and part of that was all of the machinations that were going on behind the scenes. Everybody trying to line up and do this and do that, and this guy hadn't endorsed our candidate. So I said to him, he said to me, now I'd like to say a few words at the meeting, and I'd like to go first because I have to get out of there early. And I said, well, are you going to endorse our candidate for the executive? In your discussion, he said, no, I'm staying neutral in that race. I said, well, then you're not speaking. And he said to me, what? I said, you heard me. You're not speaking at the Republican dinner unless you endorse that candidate. And he hung up on me.
Mm-hmm.
Called me back about 20 minutes later.
Is he deceased?
Yes. And he said to me, all right, I'll endorse him.
And you said, keep it brief.
You got to stand up to these folks. And you know what? There's this legislature has rolled over and played dead since this charter. I don't know if you're aware of this, but in 1978, there was a charter provision on the ballot. And when I ran in 79, it was on the ballot in 79. The Democrats had a 17-16 majority, and they pushed through a charter provision for that election in 79. I, having been a history and government major in college, knew a little bit about municipal governing, and so I did all the research for the Republican Party on that, and said, we really don't need a charter. We need maybe some revisions to how
county administrator came from that.
Yeah, the county administrator and how we conduct business, but we don't need a charter because, you're going to create another whole layer of government, which we have.
Oh, yeah.
And we can still. So anyway, I led the charge. The people agreed with us because we went from 17-16 Democrat to 28-5 Republican.
Brutal.
All right. And so I was, and I was a little suspicious, but what happened was, as Rahm Emanuel said, never let a good crisis go to waste, or something to that effect.
I think you're right.
So the brain trust, the Republican brain trust in the legislature, raised taxes. Well, what did they raise them? 37%.
Yes.
Some astronomical amount. They built this jail, which was a total disaster. Again, Greene County just built the jail, under budget, on time. Ulster County, too many cooks in the kitchen. That's
crooks in their kitchen.
You call them cooks, crooks, whatever. Too much going on that held this project up. There were too many people involved that shouldn't have been involved. And so between the jail and the budget, the crisis developed that we needed a new form of government. And of course, we got a new form of government. And the Democrats won the legislature because they ran on the charter. And this time the charter was
barely approved.
Barely approved, but people favored it.
Yeah.
So they won. And then they allowed the county elect to dictate the terms of engagement. A prime example was there was nothing in the charter that created the position of
chief of staff
at about $150,000 a year with benefits.
No, not that much, but
with benefits.
With benefits.
And pension and benefits and health insurance and the whole works. So there, and how many deputies and I mean this was creating this massive bureaucracy. Then shutting down information. They absolutely allowed that information to be shut down. They allowed the county executive to take over the website so that if you click on Ulster County website, all you see is a picture of the executive before you see anything.
Still?
I haven't checked recently because there's very little on there that I'm interested in. But the point is they just rolled over and played dead. And as a consequence, not only do we have a charter form of government with an executive, we have virtually no checks and balances, virtually none. And this is a prime example of these legislators need to stand up and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. There's a working group here. Now, again, the executive was very wise, appointed mostly to this working group, or he has the majority appointees on this working group, and they are
which are ignored.
And they're going but they're going to now execute his plan. And but what he did was he got out in front of the parade. I think it was just simply he already knew he had control over the working group. But if the working group comes out, who knows? These legislators might start to take credit for actually developing this working plan. And he needs to burnish his liberal credentials, or whatever they call them, progressives now, because liberal was a...
Now they're old-fashioned.
That didn't play very well.
Liberal,
So progressive sounds like you're actually doing something. So so now he's got to burnish those credentials to potentially run for the lieutenant governor. That's my prediction.
I'm hearing now. My ear isn't to the ground like it used to be, but I'm hearing you speak of lieutenant governor. He might have some competition in that, if in fact that's what he's pointing toward. To me, this is implausible, but I'm just passing it along. That our 6-month senator, Michelle Hinchy, herself, is a very ambitious, like her father was, a very ambitious politician, young woman. She's, I think, 32 or 33 now, about 5 years younger than Ryan. So these are two up-and-coming politicians who are looking well beyond the borders already, and that she's been reported to have made some important contacts in the city to boost her own candidacy for lieutenant governor. It would not be unprecedented for an upstate senator, Pataki, to seek statewide office.
I don't want to keep dredging up old news, but I just read on the website that this guy Erner did a program with Michelle Henchy on housing equity or something to that effect.
Oh yeah.
Now, do you read anything into that she is doing a program with Donaldson's opponent? Do you read anything at all into,
I think what I got an email from from one of Phil's supporters when the election, after the result on Wednesday.
Yeah,
and it was quite succinct and pointed. And essentially, this person said, I had his name, a guy named Ed. His name was Ed. I forget his last name. I forget everything. But Ed said to me, "Well, the establishment got it wrong, including me, although I thought I got it more right than anybody." But okay, that's why we do these things. Unlike today, we're not getting any comments from our listeners. I hope they're listening anyway. But this guy said essentially this was anti-establishment. This was earnest. But she can have it both ways. I don't necessarily read this into anti-Dave Donaldson. I think she's more about burnishing her own progressive, very progressive image.
But and again, I don't know when this occurred, but he hasn't been around that long, and since he got here, he's been a candidate. I mean, the way I see it, he had one election under his belt, and so he's probably been looking at this for a while. My thing was, if I'm the state senator, and
yeah, I get your point.
Do I want to be doing a program with somebody who's in a primary? Because the thought process here is you're actually supporting that candidate, and he puts it right on his website that he did this program with Senator Michelle Henchy.
Okay,
she's only been a senator
6 months.
6 months, which means it was in the last 6 months, and he's been a candidate since then, because he had a file sometime in January, right?
Yeah. So you've connected some dots.
Yeah.
Now, whether they're really a connection, we don't know. I'd like to regress a little bit to a Kingston issue, which kind of got my attention. You and I walk you and I walk at Dietz Stadium, and there's hundreds of people that over a week, if not thousands. Dietz Stadium is more. I'm getting ahead of myself. The mayor announced some $17 million that's being committed to upgrading Dietz Stadium, which has been
fabulous, badly
neglected, which is kind of typical. It's not just a Kingston thing. Things get neglected. But $17 million, and he went into some detail on his site about what was going to be done. A lot of stuff. The facility itself dates to the 30s. It's been upgraded from time to time, but mostly the field itself. This is about the locker rooms and the bleachers and the facilities, and the parking lot obviously needs paving and everything else. And his rationale seemed to be that Dietz Stadium has attracted major sporting events, sectional football games, playoff games, and track meets, and things like that, lacrosse, many school level programs that are that. And as a Kingstonian now, I'm very proud of that facility. It's said to be the best facility between Albany and New York of its kind. And so the mayor, in some detail, laid out this rationale, and he ticked off a number of events, state athletic events that had been held there, but that because the stadium's facilities have deteriorated, as they tend to, accelerating in recent years, that we have lost some of these events to Newburgh and maybe Poughkeepsie and other places that have better maintained facilities. What was left out of this whole detailed report was what this facility means to the average Kingstonian.
Right.
Guys people like you and me, and the people that we see exercising at the stadium, running on the track, walking on the track, walking around the track. It's just a wonderful facility, particularly for runners. When I was a runner and my knees were starting to give out, I could run on that track, which is
That track is world class.
Isn't it? It's beautiful. You just bounce along the thing, and people do that. So I think the mayor needs to, the next time he reports on how the importance of this facility, it's not just high school athletes and regional revenue coming in. That's very important. That's important too. But that keep in mind that this is our facility. We're taxpayers. We're the people paying for it year in and year out, and that we should be acknowledged.
Yeah, and even though I live in the town of Ulster, I contribute. Everybody in Ulster County contributes to the Kingston city budget every time we buy something, because 11% of that tax of that revenue is going to the city. Last week I went to a restaurant uptown and it cost me $1.50 to park. So we're all in this. We're all in this together, and I think Dietz Stadium is that it's one of the premier
sports
attractions.
Facility. Yeah, it is.
Quality of life attractions. In the
can you imagine coming, for instance, somebody coming from New York, or outside the community, hadn't been here much, or if at all, maybe just rode by on the throughway, and they hear Kingston is one of the top 5 in the country now in terms of real estate and tourism and all that, and they drive around town to see what the town looks like. All right, they stay off Broadway, but that's temporary, and then they see Dietz Stadium, and they go, wow. This is a going town. Look at this facility.
Yeah, the stadium itself, the track is beautiful. The playing field is gorgeous. You got tennis courts up there in Forsyth Park. We need pickleball courts, and they do have that lower level they made into a parking lot, which I hope that they're going to, because pickleball now is one
huge.
It's the hottest sport going. I mean, it's like everywhere. And we need to catch up with that. And those courts are smaller. The zoo is, I bring my grandkids to the zoo anytime they come to town, because it's just, it's really just a nice, friendly.
Hey, here's a zoo story. I wrote about this back in the day. When I got to town, the zoo wasn't quite what it is now. It's really improved. It's been landscaping. They've done a terrific job there. It's a great draw.
They put parking in.
And people come with their kids and their grandchildren. It's really, I had my children there. When I came to town, they had somebody had captured a cub. I think it was
bear cub. Yeah,
bear cub. I don't know if it's a brown bear or a black bear, but
it was black.
It was a black bear, and a black bear had his own cage. And he grew up in a cage, and he got to be quite large. And they called him Barney the bear. And he was a big attraction, Barney. He was abused somewhat. Kids would throw stuff at him and firecrackers, and he was kind of like a little Frankenstein bear. And Barney would escape occasionally, but he didn't know any better. And he'd only go as far as the nearest tree. And it would climb up into the tree. And I remember being in Mayor Garrigan's office, and Garrigan getting a phone call, and he looked at me. That goddamn bear got out again. It's in the tree.
Out again.
So Barney lived an extraordinarily long life, For a bear.
Yeah,
for a
captive
bear.
bear, yeah.
Yeah, for a captive bear. And, he was taken care of in his fashion. He was well fed and all that. And so he died in his 20s, which was probably twice as long.
Yeah.
And the DEC was very curious about, they wanted to do an autopsy on Barney to see if they could discover anything about what his longevity, what did this. And what they discovered was that Barney wasn't, because nobody ever got close enough, but Barney was not Barney. Barney was Betty. That was headline news. So Betty, so that's the stadium. It's a wonderful complex. Again, I'd like to see the mayor plug in maybe some money to accommodate the Kingstonians.
And they're spending some money on that pool, which is nice. And the kids are going to love that splash pad. Oh my God, those things are so popular. And this is all quality of life stuff.
It is.
You
like to get something for your tax dollars.
Yeah, and these are the kinds of things that build a foundation for a community. Having this kind of stuff,
Hey, would you like to wrap up, Mara? We got about 10 minutes. Maybe wrap up on some national stuff that you and I talk about.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the border situation with the vice president finally going to the border. I don't know what difference it will make. It'll be good optics, I guess. Finally.
Well, she's carefully picking.
She's 800 miles away from.
She's going to El Paso, which is user-friendly territory where they've already probably got the mannequins up so that the pictures will look right.
These are the pictures they're allowing. They don't allow.
And
the size of Texas is, to me, is amazing. I know it's big.
Absolutely astounding.
They had the senator on, and he was speaking to this, and he says El Paso is 800 miles. You can go 800. I think you can go 1,000 miles across Texas. You drive 1,000 miles and still be in Texas.
Texas is interesting. I've driven parts of the West, and we haven't driven Texas, but we did a stint through Wyoming, and what I found incredible is in Wyoming, the interstate has exits for private ranches. You could have your own exit off the interstate because
it says Catalano Ranch.
The only way to get to your ranch, and you get off the exit. You get off the exit, and you're on a dirt road. But this is, and of course you can go hours without seeing a house. I'm like, holy moly, this is a big country.
Yeah. I think the West is 2/3 the size of the country, isn't it? West of the Mississippi.
Oh my! I'll tell you the truth. I absolutely loved Wyoming and Montana. We did some time in Montana. I went to Yellowstone and flipped up into Montana. But yeah, you can drive out there for endlessly and not.
And no speed limits in some of these states.
No speed limit. Oh yeah. You're doing 80 in the right lane. And they're blowing by you
I drove on the.
You're going to have a problem with electric cars, though, because they're just not. The charging stations are going to be further away than the batteries.
The cord.
Yeah.
We drove on the. I don't know. Have you been to Germany?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, we were in Germany more than a few years now, and we had the cheap rental car that went from 0 to 60 in like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And they have 3 lanes. The right lane is zero us, the middle lane is passing lane, and the third lane is wide open. And I'm driving, and I see this like yellow dot in the rearview mirror. And all of a sudden, the dot is coming on, and this guy next to me. I'm pushing this thing. I'm doing 90 in the middle lane. I'm passing a guy. I'm doing like 85, 90. There's no speed limits, and those autobahns are really built. Those things are.
Oh yeah.
You don't get potholes on those things.
No.
And this guy blows by me in the yellow Porsche. God knows what he was doing. I was doing 90, and then boom, and we stopped for gas, which was quite expensive, far more than we're paying right now in Europe. We stopped for gas, and there was a trooper there, and I said to the trooper, we were chatting with him. Everybody speaks perfect English, and I said, "Gee, do you guys have many accidents? These high-speed guys?" He says, "No, not really." He said, "These roads are engineered for that purpose, for high speed."
Yeah.
But he said, "Let me tell you, when we do have an accident, there are no survivors."
There are no survivors, right?
So,
right, yeah. So, what was the issue again?
I don't know. We're wandering around here. There is the other thing we're talking about. The state and the country are being opened up.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I bear some resentment about the way we close down, and the kind of fits and starts, and the dictates, and we gave all this power. I hope we learn some. All right, in the public interest and public safety and health issues and all that. I get that. We had the government had to protect us. Heidi spoke to the county executive. Of Dave Donaldson. I wasn't really aware of that, and I read the papers that Dave was a leader on protecting Ulster County. I think Ryan can properly take credit for that, but. The notion that fireworks going off and the governor striding the stage as only he can, rejoicing over things reopening, but then things aren't really reopened. It depends what restaurant you go to, whether you wear a mask or not. Depends what gas station you go to. I still carry a mask around in my pocket.
I have a mask all the time.
Yeah,
because
just in case, And whereas we had, the pendulum, as you know, Mario, the pendulum can swing back and forth a lot. Before we were under the thumb of the government, which at least we knew who to be mad about or credit, for better or for worse. And now we're under the thumb of every shopkeeper. Everybody makes their own rules.
Yeah.
And there's something that I can't get it out of what we used to call my military mind when you and I were in the service. It was kind of a mockery. The military mind was so rigid that you couldn't argue with it. But I can't get out of my mind the notion of and you're in the medical field. You're a dentist. The notion that we're vaccinated, we're double vaccinated, so we're immune, and we can't get it. I suppose we're 92%.
We can get it, but
very small.
We'll get,
or the symptoms, and therefore we can spread it. But you're vaccinated. I equated this with polio when we were boys, kids. Every summer was dangerous. Your parents were. You had to be careful where you swam. Nobody knew where this stuff came from. Mm-hmm. And even in New York, I guess, or the island.
There was a kid in my building with polio, and I could have gotten it, and the other kids in the building could have gotten it too.
Was polio, thank God we can talk about it in the past tense, was it contagious?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
That was the
virus,
big thing.
but it was spread by mosquitoes.
Ah, that's where it came from. In the summertime, there's the mosquitoes out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would lose a kid. Lose a kid. A kid would not come back to school or I knew a kid I played ball with. The kid winds up in an iron lung. Mm-hmm. But once you got that vaccination, that was it. It was a miracle. And I maybe wrongly compared the polio vaccination in the 50s with the virus vaccination, with this COVID vaccination in current times, and that, I'm vaccinated, I'm safe.
Yeah.
But apparently not. And now, of course, there's warnings of some other COVID stuff, coming out. There's the whole thing over in China. I don't know if we'll ever get to the bottom of that. I mean, how do you penetrate a communist dictatorship?
We have two problems. Okay, the way I see it, we have the problem with the Chinese denying or putting up roadblocks to that information. The second part of it is that we have so many people in this country that are on the Chinese payroll that have not disclosed that they're on the Chinese payroll, or that have relationships. Some of these colleges
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
relationships where the Chinese are pouring millions into supporting these schools in exchange for some of the research information and access to some of the professors who are doing research in areas that they're interested. That it's virtually impossible at this point to know who our friends are and who our enemies are. I'm absolutely astounded. Now, what was interesting, I read recently that there was a big defection from China. Somebody that was very close to Xi Jinping, who has defected, and with it has brought some flash drives that have the names of all the Chinese operators in this country.
Wow.
And now, again, I don't know, this guy's disappeared. They've put him into some sort of protection program already. But he went to Hong Kong for a conference with his daughter and then jumped on a plane, came here, and defected. He's the highest ranking Chinese person that ever.
Is he a scientist, this guy?
Yeah, he was the head of one of the major departments over there, but he took a lot of information, supposedly. And again, now if the guy comes here and he's got information on operators that are politically connected, what do you think is going to happen? Wow. Nothing. That's what's going to happen. Nothing, because they're going to cover it up.
They're going to suppress it.
Okay, don't do this anymore, and we won't say anything. So who knows? Because do you trust the FBI? I don't trust.
Not anymore.
I don't trust the FBI out of my sight, for crying out loud. And I'm going to change now. I got to go out and change my license plates. Because now that I know who I am, for crying out loud.
Careful how you start your car.
Yeah, I mean, come on, give me a break. But you can't trust these people. Absolutely cannot trust these people, and what a shame. But yeah, that would be my big concern.
When I was a reporter, we used to the mantra was "Go where the story takes you," and okay, we're done.
We are done. That's where the story's taking us. Take it away, Lawrence.
Have a good weekend, guys. Thanks for everything.
Okay.